Imagine standing at 22,000 feet, where the air cuts your lungs like broken glass. You're looking at a child. Her skin is porcelain. Her eyelashes rest against her cheeks as if she's only sleeping. She wears a dress of the finest alpaca wool, her hair perfectly braided, her small hands folded across her chest in an embrace that will never end. She looks peaceful. She looks like she might wake up, but she won't. She's been sleeping here, frozen in time, for over 500 years. In our world, finding a dead child on a mountaintop would trigger investigations, outrage, justice. But this wasn't murder, at least not in any way the people who placed her there would have recognized. This was the highest honor their civilization could bestow. This was how an empire spoke to its gods. Before we climb higher into this story, I have to say something that still amazes me every time I record one of these videos. I'd love to know where you're watching from right now, because it's extraordinary that a tragedy from the 15th century Andes can reach screens in Lagos, Mumbai, São Paulo, and everywhere in between. Drop your location in the comments. Now, let's go back. Welcome to the Tahuantinsuyo, the empire we call Inca. History remembers it for temples plated in gold, for stone walls so perfectly fitted a blade cannot slip between them, for roads that stretched across impossible terrain. But beneath that architectural genius, beneath the organizational brilliance, there was something darker, a transaction conducted in the currency of innocence, in blood, in virginity, in lives that were shaped, polished, and spent before they could ever truly begin. This is not a story about treasure. This is a story about the Acllahuasi, the house of the chosen ones, and the girls who were born with expiration dates written into their destiny. Girls raised to serve the state with their bodies, whether in the bed of a nobleman or beneath the eternal ice of a sacred mountain. To understand how a child ends up alone at the top of the world, we have to go back to the beginning, back to the moment when her fate was sealed. It's the 15th century, during the reign of Pachacati, the emperor whose name means he who shakes the earth. Picture a small village, clinging to an Andean slope where life is hard, dictated by sun, rain, and the potato harvest. But there's one day the villagers fear more than drought, more than storm, more than sickness. It's the day the imperial officials descend the Inca road. They're not soldiers, they're bureaucrats. They wear fine tunics in bright colors, and their eyes carry a calculating coldness. They haven't come to collect corn or textiles or llamas. They've come to conduct a human inventory. They're looking for parts to feed the state machine. And the parts they want are girls. Children between 8 and 10 years old. When the procession enters the village plaza, the air becomes thick, almost unbreathable. There's no music, no celebration, only heavy silence. Mothers pull their daughters close, trying to make them invisible, while fathers lower their heads, knowing that resistance means death. The Inca's will is absolute. You don't argue with God. The selection process is brutally efficient. The officials order the girls into lines. They walk between them, stopping to examine them with the same cold detachment a farmer uses when inspecting livestock. They're searching for absolute perfection. Their hands touch faces. They open mouths to check that teeth are complete and aligned. They inspect skin in sunlight, searching for the slightest imperfection. A mole in the wrong place, a small scar from a childhood fall, a birthmark. Any physical defect means immediate rejection. Only the flawless, the radiant, the ones whose beauty seems to defy the poverty and dirt of their surroundings, are candidates. For the family of a chosen girl, the moment is a devastating mixture of religious pride and survival calculation. The state is generous with those who surrender their daughters. They receive special privileges, tax exemptions, livestock. It's instant social advancement purchased with absence. The father knows he's securing his clan's future, but the price is a void that will never be filled. The moment an official points to a girl and pronounces the sacred word Aclla, her destiny is sealed. She stops being a village child. Her former name is erased from the records. Her past is annihilated. That same day, she's separated from her mother's arms. There's no time for long goodbyes. The girl, confused and frightened, looks back one last time as she's escorted from her home. She no longer belongs to her family. She is now, body and soul, exclusive property of the empire. Her childhood has ended. Her function as tribute has just begun. The journey from rural villages to the great administrative centers is the last contact these girls have with the outside world. When they finally arrive in Cusco or the provincial capitals, they're led directly to a structure that dominates the urban landscape through both size and mystery. The Acllahuasi. From the street, the building imposes a mixture of religious reverence and superstitious terror. Its walls are made of perfectly fitted stone, massive blocks so precisely joined that not even a knife blade could pass between them. But the most disturbing thing isn't the stone, it's the absence. There are no windows facing the city. These are blind walls designed not just to prevent entry, but to ensure that no one inside can ever look out. It's a fortress, a convent, and above all, a high-security prison. When the heavy wooden and bronze doors close behind them, the sound is definitive. The boom of the bolt is the sound of their freedom dying. Inside, the Acllahuasi reveals itself as a city within the city. A labyrinth of courtyards, gardens, and workshops where the sun shines but the air feels dense and stagnant. Here begins the transformation. The girls enter an exclusively female universe, purged of any male presence. The only men authorized to cross these doors are the Sapa Inca, considered a living deity, and occasionally his physicians. The rest of the security personnel consists of eunuchs, castrated men whose expressionless faces and high voices serve as constant reminders of what the system does to those who serve power. But the true jailers are the mamacunas. They're older women, former Acllas, who survived selection and decided, or were forced to decide, to stay forever. They govern this closed world with monastic discipline. Under their tutelage begins the indoctrination of slow, meticulous brainwashing. Daily life is a routine of relentless work, disguised as sacred service. The girls learn to weave kumbi, the empire's finest cloth made from vicuna wool, destined only for the altars of gods and the emperor's body. Their small fingers work until they bleed, perfecting complex geometric patterns, knowing that an error in weaving is an offense to the divine. They also learn to prepare chicha, chewing corn, for hours to ferment it with their own saliva, creating the drink that will intoxicate priests at festivals. But the true education isn't technical, it's psychological. Day after day, the mamacunas whisper a manufactured truth into their ears. You no longer belong to your parents. You don't belong to yourselves. Your skin, your hair, your womb, everything is property of the sun. They're taught to suppress any individual desire. Dreaming of home is treason. Feeling curiosity about men is heresy. They live surrounded by luxuries, sleeping on soft blankets, and eating better than any peasant. Fresh llama meat, corn, exotic fruits. But this rich diet isn't an act of generosity. It's an investment. The state is fattening them. Their bodies are molded. Their skin is treated with oils so it won't burn in the sun. Their hair is washed with aromatic herbs. They're polished like jewels or fattened like cattle before the fair. As years pass and the girls become adolescents, the atmosphere in the Acllahuasi changes. Childhood innocence gives way to a repressed, suffocating sexual attention. They know, because rumors run through the stone corridors, that they're being prepared for something. They feel how their bodies change, how they bloom, and they know that beauty is their greatest danger. They live with constant fear of being defective, but also with the terror of being too perfect. It's a paranoid existence, walking on eggshells. Every laugh too loud, every rebellious glance is noted by the mamakunas. There's no privacy. Even their dreams seem to be monitored. They're trapped in a golden cage, waiting for the keyholder to decide when and how he'll consume their youth. The air smells of incense and fear, a nauseating mixture that sticks to skin and never leaves. Time inside the Acllahuasi walls isn't measured by the sun's movement, but by biology. Childhood is a period of grace, but it's finite. When the girls reach puberty, when the first menstrual blood stains their white tunics, the bell of destiny rings. It's the biological signal that the merchandise has ripened. It's time for the final harvest. Imperial officials return to the compound. This time the atmosphere isn't one of evaluation, but of solemn decision. The young maidens are lined up in the central courtyard. The air vibrates with electric anxiety. At this point, their lives fork into 3 distinct paths, and none of them have been chosen by them. 3 routes toward an irrevocable destiny. The first path is political pragmatism. Young women who possess notable beauty, but perhaps have slightly darker skin, or belong to lineages of conquered local chiefs, are classified as gift virgins. In an instant, they cease being sacred to become currency. The Inca gifts them to loyal nobles or allied rulers. Imagine the silent humiliation, having been raised believing yourself a wife of the sun, only to end up as a stranger's concubine in a distant province. They pass from absolute chastity to a warrior's bed, converted into pleasure objects and political wombs to engender the next generation of elite. The second path is permanence. Some are chosen or allowed to choose to stay. They become mamakunas. They take vows of perpetual celibacy and transform into the new guardians of the system. They'll age within those stone walls, teaching new generations of girls to obey, perpetuating the same cycle of confinement that robbed their own freedom. They're survivors, but they're also jailers of their own history. But it's the third path that freezes our blood. It's the path reserved for absolute perfection. Officials walk among the rows and stop before those who have no equal. Those who possess beauty that seems supernatural. Those who don't have a single mark, not a single defect. They are the chosen ones for Capacocha, the supreme sacrifice. Inca society tells them it's the greatest honor a woman can receive. They're told they won't die, but will go to live with the gods to protect the empire. But look beyond the propaganda. Look at their trembling hands. The ritual begins with a great feast in Cusco's central plaza. The Sapa Inca, the son of the sun himself, receives them. The people sing and dance, celebrating the generosity of these girls who are going to surrender their lives to prevent droughts and earthquakes. They're dressed in the finest clothing, adorned with macaw feathers and gold and silver pins. They're treated like living goddesses, but it's a farewell. Then begins the pilgrimage's slow, agonizing march toward the ends of the world. The procession leaves the capital and heads toward the sacred mountains, the Apis. They walk for weeks, sometimes months. They cross green valleys, traverse frozen rivers, and begin the ascent into the death zone. As they climb, the landscape changes. Green disappears, replaced by gray rock, and finally by the blinding white of snow. We're talking about ascending volcanoes like Ampedo or Lulalaco to over 20,000 feet. The air becomes so thin that each step is a struggle against asphyxiation. The heart pounds the chest like a war drum, desperate for oxygen. But here is where cruelty disguises itself as mercy. To ensure the girls reach the summit and fulfill their destiny without resistance, the priests begin systematic sedation. It's not a lucid journey. During the ascent, they're forced to consume massive quantities of fermented corn chicha, a thick, strong beer, and more importantly, their mouths are filled with coca leaves. Chewing coca is common in the Andes to combat altitude sickness, but the doses these girls receive are industrial. Imagine their mental state. They're drunk, drugged, exhausted, and frozen. Reality blurs. Fear dissolves into a chemical fog. The priests' voices sound distant, as if coming from underwater. They probably suffer hallucinations from hypoxia and alkaloids. They don't walk toward death. They float toward it. When they finally reach the summit, the cold is absolute, 20 degrees below zero. The wind cuts skin like obsidian blades. At the peak, priests have prepared a ceremonial platform and small niches excavated in earth and rock. The final moment arrives. The girls, barely conscious, are invited to sit in these hollows. They're placed in fetal position, the position in which they came into the world and in which they'll now leave it. They're wrapped in fine mantles. Offerings are placed with them small gold figurines, food, utensils. It's a funerary trousseau for a journey with no return. In many cases, like that of the famous Lulalaco maiden, they were simply left to sleep. The alcohol and coca, combined with hypothermia, induce a sweet and lethal sleep. They feel a paradoxical warmth as their vital organs shut down one by one. They close their eyes thinking they'll wake in the palace of the sun, but their bodies become ice statues. However, it wasn't always so peaceful. In other cases, like the Juanita mummy, archaeology reveals more direct violence. Perhaps the girl woke up, perhaps terror broke through the drug barrier, and she tried to flee. The priest's response was brutally efficient. A dry, blunt blow to the right supraorbital arch with a stone mace. The skull fractures. Internal hemorrhaging is massive. The light goes out in an instant. Whether by blow or by ice, the result is the same. The mountain claims its bride. The procession descends, leaving behind a small pile of stones in the white immensity. Below, the empire celebrates. Above, in eternal silence, a perfect girl sleeps forever, frozen in time, converted into a sacred object, stripped of her future to purchase the tranquility of the present. But let's descend from the clouds. If death on the frozen summit was considered the golden door to divinity, there existed another type of death in the empire, a death reserved not for the chosen, but for the fallen, a death designed for shame. The Inca theocratic system had a paranoid obsession with the biological purity of its Acllas. They were the exclusive patrimony of the sun. But what happened if human desire defeated divine mandate? What if a virgin of the sun was touched by a mortal man, or if it was discovered she'd lost her chastity in secret? The answer is a claustrophobic nightmare. Inca law was clear and terrifying. An Acllas blood, being sacred, could not be spilled by human hands. Therefore, they couldn't be beheaded or beaten. Their punishment had to be total erasure. They were condemned to be buried alive. Imagine the scene. Far from festivals and music, the accused young woman is taken to an underground vault or a small sealed cave. There are no goodbyes, only the cold judgment of priests. They place her in darkness, and here resides the system's most refined cruelty. Alongside her, they leave a small bowl of water and a bit of corn. It's not an act of mercy. It's a calculated torture to prolong her agony a few more days. The entrance is sealed with heavy rocks and mud. The silence becomes absolute. Down there, in total darkness, the woman passes from desperation to delirium. She screams until her throat tears. She scratches stone until her nails break. But no one hears her. She dies slowly, suffocated by stale air, hunger, and terror. Her body isn't preserved in ice to be worshipped. It rots in earth to be forgotten. And for the man, the lover, the punishment is biblical annihilation. He's executed, of course, but the Inca's wrath is expansive. The guilt is considered a contagious stain. The man's wife, his children, his parents, even his domestic animals all are exterminated. His house is demolished stone by stone. And finally, over the remains of his home and fields, officials sow salt, they spread salt to kill the land's fertility, ensuring that never again will a blade of grass grow in that cursed place. The message to the population is brutally clear. A woman's body belongs to the state. And stealing from the state doesn't just kill you, it erases your name and your existence from the face of the earth. Fear, not faith, was the true guardian of virginity in the Tahuantinsuyo. Let's return to the present. Let's exit the fog of legend and enter the white, sterile light of modern forensic laboratories. For centuries, the story of the Acllas and Capacocha was told by Spanish chroniclers or oral tradition, tales tinted with mysticism and propaganda. But the dead don't lie, and biology has memory. Today, technology allows us to interrogate these mummies in a way no inquisitor could. Scientists have subjected the hair of the Lulalaco maiden and the Juanita mummy to rigorous isotopic analysis and mass spectrometry. Human hair grows approximately 1 centimeter per month, converting itself into a biological black box that records everything a person ate, drank, and felt in their final times. And the results are devastating.